Freddy Galvis is a middle infielder who's bounced around the MLB for about 14 years now. He was signed in 2007 by the Philadelphia Phillies, made his way through their minor league system, came up with the Phillies in 2012, and has been a consistent major league infielder since then. I wanted to bring him up today because, as many of you know, I'm an Orioles fan, and if you're also an Orioles fan, here's some potential trade locations for Galvis to go, and if you're not an Orioles fan, this might be a guy you want to pick up because it's obviously up to you and not your team's front office. Historically, Galvis has not really been that much of a hitter, as are most shortstops in baseball. His OPS has kind of lingered around like 650 to 700 in his early years. But he was definitely known for the defensive side of the ball. As of right now, he is first in fielding percentage among active shortstops with a minimum of 3,000 plate appearances in 500 games. Fielding percentage kind of is what it is. It's not the most reliable fielding stat, but I mean, that's a pretty impressive number over such a large sample size. But what's intriguing about Galvis is how his offense has improved throughout his career. Since 2019, when he was with the Reds, he's hit 252, 301, 438 for his slash line. And in 2021, he's hitting a home run every 18 at-bats. And for a shortstop that's never really hit for any power, that's certainly an eye-opening number. He's been relatively healthy throughout his career too, having multiple 162-game seasons, and this year in his age 31 season, he's only been out, I think, for a week or two with an injury. He has 9 home runs in 47 games, currently hitting a career-best 814 OPS and a 122 OPS+. He is absolutely raking, especially compared to his early years in his career. When you put him up against other shortstops in the game, he ranks in the top 10 among other shortstops in offense. His .497 slugging percentage at the time of the recording of this beats all second basemen besides Max Muncy, Ryan McMahon, and Marcus Semien. And up against shortstops, he's beating all of them except for Xander Bogaerts, Trey Turner, and Brandon Crawford. The only difference between all these names I just mentioned and Freddy Galvis is that Galvis is only on a one-year deal for $1.5 million. If he gets traded, he gets a $250,000 bonus from the Orioles, and the average salary of all those names I just mentioned is $12.9 million per year. The only other name in there that's getting paid anywhere close to what Galvis is getting paid is Ryan McMahon. He's making $2.3 million per year. But whatever team that would end up with Galvis would be saving a ton of space and getting a huge piece of their lineup, especially towards the bottom of like a competing team. I've compiled a small list of teams that could be potential trade candidates for Galvis. There's a couple low-chance teams that are always kind of in the mix for these kind of things, but could be involved in a trade like this. Those teams are the Yankees, Dodgers, Reds, and Giants. The Yankee shortstop situation is currently Gleyber Torres, with LeMahieu kind of sticking at second, switching between first and second with Voigt's injury. But they could certainly use another middle infielder. I know they picked up Odor earlier, but they're a team that might be getting desperate towards the end of the year. Their window isn't necessarily closed, but it is closing. They were rumored for Trevor Story trades. They're going to be going after Corey Seager at some point in this offseason, but the Yankees are probably not in on Galvis, but they're certainly a team that could be in on Galvis. Galvis is a switch hitter, and the Yankees do not have a lot of left-handed hitters, and Galvis will be hitting left-handed most of the time, so if that's something they're trying to add, that wouldn't be a bad option. As for the Dodgers, they've always got enough depth and pieces to kind of make things happen, but they've hit the injury bug early in the season. I don't know quite the options they've been running out there, but like Lux, Taylor, Rios has been hurt, and Muncy's in there somewhere, but if they're looking for depth and cheap depth, they're going to get it in Galvis. He can go out there every day and start for them at shortstop. Seager's been hurt, I believe, also. That's their main option, obviously, there at short. But yeah, Dodgers potential, but I'm also thinking likely not in on it. The other team I have is the Reds. They are, I don't know, it depends how they think about themselves. If they think they're going to compete, which they may, because last offseason they went for Castellanos, they got Moustakas, their pitching isn't in a bad place. And I think their shortstop is probably the weakest position on the entire team. I think they've ran out Jose Garcia out there sometimes, and they had a Rule 5 pick go out there in the spring. That didn't work out, but yeah, the Reds definitely need a shortstop, and if they really plan on pursuing a postseason run, they'll want a guy like Galvis. And the last team I had was the Giants, who have Brandon Crawford at shortstop, Donovan Solano at second base, and Galvis probably won't outplay those two options, but a great option off the bench, and definitely good for spot starts. I believe Solano's a left-handed hitter, so if they want Galvis out there against lefties. He's also capable with the right side. Unlike most switch hitters, he's hit a few home runs from that side this year. So yeah, just some of the lower chance teams, but and I think it's really going to come down to these four teams I have in the likely category. First one I got is the Phillies. They were another team that was kind of lacking a shortstop. They went for Didi. They went to re-sign Didi Gregorius. They did get him. I believe he's been hurt for some of this year. But their other shortstop option has been Gene Segura, who has kind of headbutted with Joe Girardi a little bit. So another situation where Galvis could be a good bench piece. He's played for the Phillies before. They're quite familiar with him. But he could even overtake Segura if the performance continues the way it has been. Not to mention the Phillies are a team that's really tight in the budget department, so Galvis will be coming there on a dime, and that is great for Dave Dombrowski. I believe the Nationals could also be involved. Their second baseman's kind of a floating position right now. Shortstop's obviously Trey Turner, one of the best shortstops in baseball, but Galvis has played a pretty healthy amount of second base in his career, and the Nationals would be a pretty nice fit with their interesting lineup and kind of just mix-match team of veteran guys. Third team I had is the Cardinals. Their shortstop was Paul DeJong. Tommy Edman kind of mixes around in there. The corners are pretty locked up with Arenado and Goldschmidt, but with Edman and DeJong up the middle, it's kind of shallow there. DeJong's been on the 10-day IL, and they don't really have a whole lot of other options for middle infield, so Galvis is a pretty good fit with them. And lastly, I had the Mets. The Mets did extend Lindor after trading for him in the offseason. Second base, they've been running out Jeff McNeil, but as is the story with the Mets this year, they have like 16 players on the IL right now, and any sort of depth they can muster is going to be very helpful for them. You don't know how those guys are going to fare come playoff time, assuming the Mets make the playoffs. And I mean, bodies break down, and if they're already kind of broken down like they are at this point of the season, yeah, you have no idea what that's going to look like in October. So that's my four competitive teams that are going to be in, I believe. You can kind of go with any of the rebuilding teams and be like, oh, the Royals could be in on them, but it's anyone's guess if it's not going to go to a contender. So, yeah, we're just going to stick to this little lot of teams here. And the final element involved here is that Galvis isn't going to warrant like any sort of stars or any sort of like top prospects, and the Orioles are in the market for prospects. They've been rebuilding since 2018, and the farm system's kind of climbing the ladder with Mike Elias at the helm. But they're going to want some like mid-tier prospects to kind of maybe fill into that top 10 just to get rid of a guy like Galvis, who will be a rental, but any sort of prospect quantity or high upside would be interesting for them. A team like the Nationals, it's hard to say what they can offer. They have one of the worst farm systems in baseball. The Phillies farm system isn't great either. Cardinals aren't exactly a top-tier team. The Mets have a couple pieces they can move, probably enough to get a deal like this done. I mean, it is only like a 3-month rental with a middle infielder who hasn't had the longest track record in baseball. But overall, I think, yeah, Galvis can make a huge impact on one of these fringe teams that's trying to compete. They're not exactly the Dodgers or the Yankees where if you don't make the AL/NLCS, it's considered a failure. Like the Mets maybe expect to win the World Series, but I think that's a little out of their potential. But a guy like Galvis could be one of the pieces that gets them there. Obviously, he's not enough to probably put them on the same level as the Dodgers, but it's guys like this that you see on championship teams that make them who they are. Like the Nationals a couple of years ago with like Asdrubal Cabrera and Howie Kendrick. Like Galvis could be a guy like that, and teams can get him for really cheap. So it's almost a guarantee he gets traded. The Orioles don't have any use for a top 10 shortstop in baseball, at least if he continues to perform that way. He obviously is wanting to get traded. There's a clause in his contract where he gets $250K if he gets traded. So it's not a matter of if he gets traded, it's just who's going to get him and at what kind of player they're going to get. So let's keep playing well, Freddy. Get the awesome prospects back. Thanks for watching, guys.